Welcome everyone to Your Our Unity, a show that wishes to spread a spirit of peace and love in the world, one conversation at a time.
None of that affects how you are going to change the world.
That's right.
No, it does not take one person to change the world, but it takes one person to believe in themselves.
Yes.
That they can make a difference.
I love
to
that.
Inspire others.
And that's why, for me, I try to make it my purpose now to try to help other people realize their self-worth.
Yeah.
Because it's so sad that so many of us, we get destroyed based off of what other people have to say.
Yeah.
I would say do it in your own way. Make sure you're doing it on your own accord and take a risk.
Go out there and live your life passionately. Believe in everything that you're doing and believe in the fact that you will accomplish every single goal. Well, hello, my beautiful people. Welcome to the Your Our Unity show. This is a show that wants to spread a spirit of peace and love in the world, one person at a time. We want to encourage you to reclaim your voice. We want you to make sure that you're standing in your power, telling your truth, telling your story your way. No matter what you've gone through, no matter what the challenges have been, no matter what you experienced in your life, do not let the world, do not let anyone you know, do not let the system define who you are and what your story is. You be the narrator to your truth. I am your host, LeShawn Walker. I'd like to welcome you in. Please like, share, and follow. Let everyone know that we're on right now. Oh my God, my beautiful people. I hope that you're having a beautiful day. The weather is, as always, getting nicer and nicer as the days get longer and longer. I'm truly enjoying it. I'm feeling powerful. I'm feeling empowered. I'm feeling also a little light and airy as well, with my beautiful green that I have on today. So I hope that you guys are having a wonderful day. And I hope that you're ready for this impactful show that we're going to have today with my amazing guest. So I haven't seen you for a while. I want to share with you real quick what's been going on with LeShawn and Your Our Unity. A couple of weeks ago, I think I shared with you that I was going to be hosting and emceeing the annual Sweet Mother Tea Party. This year, I did not disappoint. It was another spectacular event. Eugenia Chinsman, the founder of Sweet Mother, is an organization that helps the young women in Sierra Leone. These young women are impacted by so many challenges. They, don't have the resources necessary, the tools necessary for them to go to school, but they have that drive and that passion to have a fulfilled life, dreams that their parents and their grandparents had for their lives, but were unable to accomplish. So we all came together at the tea party and we raised money to send out to these amazing young women in Sierra Leone who want to write their own story. I heard so many stories about these young women and what they had to go through just to go to school. A right that we have in the United States and so many other places that, we don't feel that we have to go through too many challenges to get there. We don't have to worry about the food on our tables and the clothes on our backs. We don't have to worry about, being traumatized by pain and all kinds of unfortunate situations that family members had to go through, which inflicted that pain also upon them. So it was so good that we were able to come together and contribute to these women and all that they wish to accomplish in their lives. They all are looking for a brighter future. They all are looking to become someone in their life. They didn't just want to exist in their country and in their world in the way that the world dictated to them. They wanted to forge their own path. So I was so happy to contribute to this Tea Party event that the Sweet Mother organization actually organizes every year. And if any of you guys are interested in finding out more about the organization, please hit me up and I'll share more information with you. So again, it's all about empowering our voices. So many men and women out there, unfortunately, are having their voices silenced. They're not able to speak their truth. They're not even able to walk in their truth. A lot of people, unfortunately, had to contend with so many unfortunate instances in their lives that have caused them to probably walk down the wrong path, or for them to get caught up in a system that doesn't care about them. And that's what we're going to speak about today. This amazing young woman that we have here today has been impacted by the justice system for a crime that I'm sure she really did not commit. But she is here to tell her story. She wants to empower and inspire all the young ladies, as well as the men out there, to be the voice for their story, to narrate their own story, to make sure they don't allow anyone to define who they are by what they think they know about you. So I want to share with you a little bit about our guest, Miss Starling Thomas. She is a visionary writer, award-winning filmmaker, and dynamic brand strategist whose work is deeply rooted in truth, survival, and radical transformation. A justice-impacted woman born and raised in Texas, Starling's lived experience with incarceration fuels her passion for storytelling that disrupts, heals, and redefines what's possible for those society often overlooks. She is the founder and force behind Soldier Media, a groundbreaking production company and creative studio dedicated to illuminating stories that confront harm, celebrate resilience, and reimagine justice, particularly those through the lens of Black womanhood. Her work is a clarion call for equity, healing, and visibility. Her latest film, Black Butterflies, is a soul-stirring documentary that chronicles the lives of 4 formerly incarcerated women, herself included, as they reclaim their voices and rewrite the narratives once imposed on them. It is a cinematic love letter to survival, sisterhood, and resistance. Starling's impact reaches far beyond the screen. She is a sought-after speaker, advocate, and mentor to women returning home, ensuring their voices are not just heard, but celebrated. Her work has been featured on national platforms championing equity and reentry justice, cementing her role as a fearless leader in the movement for systematic change. With every story she tells, Starling Thomas reminds the world surviving is sacred and storytelling is a revolutionary act. So please help me welcome the beautiful and powerful Miss Starling Thomas. How are you?
I'm blessed. Thank you for having me.
No problem. Thank you so much for being here. I'm just so excited to have you here and for you to share your story with the world. I know there's so many women that have gone through some of the struggles that you have gone through and have been impacted by the many things that you've been impacted by. And I failed to mention the title of the story of the show today, which is From Incarceration to Impact.
I love that.
Yes, a story of triumph.
I
And
love
that's what you've done. You have become the victor, my friend. You really, truly have. So thank you again so much for coming on and sharing a little about who you are and the plans that you have for yourself and your future. Okay. So
Right.
let's dig right in. I usually ask my guests to tell us a little about who they are, where they're from, and what created the person that they are today. So share with us a little about your past before we kind of dig into your story.
Yeah, I'm from Dallas, Texas. I currently reside in Houston with my fiance and my 2 little ones, who I hope don't bust through the door during this interview. I work in communications. I'm a communications director, filmmaker, writer, author, photographer, all of those things, creative things. And so I get joy out of being able to utilize the gifts that God has given me to elevate the stories of my sisters and my brothers too.
Yes.
But my work has been focused around justice impacted women for the last, I don't know, maybe 5 or 6 years. I think it's a space that you know, we often hear about our men, you know, incarcerated and how that impacts them. But it looks a little bit different when it's the woman and she's the caretaker, and you know, we hold the glue together. We're the glue that holds the family together. So when you remove us out of that family, you know, era, then it completely disrupts. I'm sorry, my son is.
Aww.
He's 1.5, so he doesn't care what I have to do at all.
That's right. Let him speak. He sees mommy is on air and he wants to be part of the interview. I totally understand. No worries. So yes, I totally. It is a different story and narrative for women who have to go through the system. You know what I mean? And our voices probably aren't heard or even understood when we're in those type of situations, and can appear to be maybe more should be. So I want you to share with me a little about how you got incarcerated in the first place. How did that know how else to put it? How did
Right.
that start? Because from everything that you told me, you have a solid foundation and you sound like such a professional. So how did that interrupt your journey and your plan and your path for your life?
Yeah, absolutely. Before I can even get into me, I have to start back when I was 8 years old and I witnessed the police brutally beat my mother at a doctor's office right outside of Dallas, Texas. And from that moment, you know, her life completely changed and mine did as well. And you know, she was going to an office to seek medical help, and there was a woman who didn't want to give her medical records and decided that, oh, if you don't leave my office, I'm going to call the cops. This was in the 90s, right? You know, we didn't have cell phones and social justice really wasn't a thing back then.
Right.
And so the woman called the cops and said, there's a Black woman in my office who won't leave. And I just remember I don't think I'll ever get this out of my memory. But I just remember, you know, I had a little brother. I have a lot of little brothers, but at the time I only had one.
Mhm.
I was hooking him up into the car. My mom was like, we're getting ready to go. She just wanted to get her medical records. She thought that the police would have more logic than the woman that she was speaking with. And I just remember the officer pulling up like somebody had committed burglary or robbery and going into this office. And, you know, I was kind of scared, but I didn't really know what to do. So I just did what my mother told me to do, which was put your brother in the car seat. And I remember my mother pushing the door open to come. She was leaving to come out of the office, and this cop just brutally attacking her from behind. You know, his whole body weight on top of her, beating her in the head, and he had handcuffs. He had his handcuffs in his hand.
Right.
And from that moment, my mother was put on probation. They told her if you go to trial, you're looking at 10 years away from your kids. And so she was forced to sign a plea deal saying she was guilty to something she was not guilty of. And for years, she was put on probation. Year 7, she's pregnant with my baby brother.
Right.
She's a single mom. She doesn't have the funds to pay her probation fees, but she still goes to report and tells a probation officer, you know, I'm here. I just don't have the money right now to pay you. And they decided that incarcerating a 7-month pregnant woman was the best option that they had at the time. And so my mother spent about 1.5 years in the Texas Department of Corrections. She gave birth to my youngest brother, handcuffed and chained to a bed. You know, at 15, this is when I was 15. So I became responsible for my 2 younger brothers now, in a way that stole my childhood from me. It completely changed the trajectory of my mother's life. You know, she's very educated. She had decent jobs, and now she, you know, has this violent felony of assault and battery of a peace officer, which is I don't understand how they get this title as peace officer.
Yes, and they're not keeping the peace. Exactly. Oh my God.
So, you know, that I was blessed to be able to go live with family. You know, I didn't struggle for my basic needs to be met, but obviously it's still it took a toll on me, especially in school. My grades dropped. You know, I had a lot on my plate, and it's a lot even for family members who love you to take you in, you know, when they have their own things going on. And so I thankfully my aunt was able to fly us down, pick my brother up so he wouldn't end up in the system. And I had developed this huge fear of being incarcerated, going to jail. My father had been to jail a couple times in my childhood, but it didn't impact me in the way that when my mother became incarcerated. And I got to visit her once. And it was not something that I think children should experience, seeing their mothers incarcerated. It did something to me. And she would write me letters and tell me, things that probably shouldn't have been told to a teenager, but she had no one else to talk to. And so she told me a lot of the things that she was dealing with in the prison. And so I developed this fear that is the place I do not want to go. I cannot end up there. So if I go to school, if I get educated, I do everything I'm supposed to do right, I will avoid the pits of hell called prison. And that's just not the case. I don't come from a typical family where they're like, oh, you guys are in the streets, or you're doing this, or you're doing that. No, if you look at my family, none of us look like we should have ever touched a jail cell, but so many of us, I mean, uncles, cousins, aunties, the tentacles of mass incarceration reach so deep into Black and brown families in this country. Yes. So around 15 years later, I found myself.
You first. Your mom went through this, and it seems like such a minor thing. What was the support like? Like the lawyer, did you have a lawyer that you paid for? Did she have a public?
She had a public defender. She had a public defender. I don't think at the time, I don't know, I was young, so I'm not for sure what all of the parameters around the situation was, but she couldn't afford an attorney. So she was given a public defender. The public defender is the one that said, you need to take this plea deal. It's not worth going to trial. She reached out to the NAACP, all of these organizations that she thought might help, even some of the lawyers who say they were in, the criminal justice reform or trying to help people who were wrongly incarcerated. And nobody would help her, Wow. And it was crazy to me to hear that as an adult later on, because I look at that time and it's like, I think Rodney King had happened not too long before that. And it's like, okay, well, a lot of people rallied around, this man, I guess, because it was on camera, but a Black woman is saying officer has beat me. And nobody stepped up,
So, just a number. That's it. Just a number. And we're trying to, I want to say quota, but basically just a quota. And let's just try to get through this and make sure that we're, going back and getting back on the street the next day. And that's it. So that's unfortunate. I'm so sorry to hear that. So by 15 years old, what happened?
So at 15, my mom became incarcerated. And at 8, I immediately have a distrust for any kind of public authority, police officers, anything that's in that realm. To me, there's no protection. So I learned very early that police are not there to protect Black women. I went to college. I went to Florida A&M University, love my alma mater. And when I graduated from college, it was around 2012. There were no jobs. We were in the huge recession. And I got a call from an old friend from college that asked me if I wanted to make some money. Absolutely. I was broke. I was living from my grandmother's house to my auntie's house, trying to figure it out. For a lot of those folks that get out of college, they don't always equip us with the real life skills that we need in order to really make it in this world. So, I started to try to pave my way. I got a call from an old friend that I was pretty close with in college. She had kids in college. I helped her with her kids and, a lot of that. And she said, do you want to make some money? It's nothing illegal. Looking back now, right? Hindsight is always 2020. That should have caused my
radar to go. Yeah, she has to preface it with, it's not illegal.
Right. So, but at the time I'm in survival mode. And that's what a lot of people don't realize. When we are in survival mode, we don't make the best decisions because we're trying to survive. And a lot of women who are incarcerated and have committed crimes, it's out of survival. It's not because we just wake up and say, oh, I want to go. There's not every woman is not Griselda Blanco, or you know what I mean, like these cases like that get sensationalized. That's not the case. And so I went to California for a couple of weeks, and I started feeling like something wasn't right. And so I was like, no, this seems right. It seems not right. The person that I knew was like, oh, I'm going to put some money in your account and all you have to do is take it out. Right. I didn't see anybody, selling weed or doing anything. I'm in Texas, and I had went to California. And so California, it's been legal for so long, you don't think anything about that. And come to find out, after I'm indicted a year and a half later, that the entire conspiracy was basically this group of people who I did not know. I knew one person out of like 30 people, were taking cannabis, which was legal in California, and shipping it to Florida, which was illegal. So that's what made it federal. So it was nothing, it wasn't hard. It wasn't hard drugs.
Right.
It wasn't like people were getting murdered or people were getting hurt. There was none of that. I was indicted originally on one count, which is conspiracy to structure financial transactions.
And that was for the deposits into your account and then you withdrawing the money.
Correct.
These obviously were illegal accounts. The money would end up bouncing later, correct?
No, the account, no, it was cash that was put in my account. So it wasn't an illegal account. The account was in my name. Yeah, it wasn't a legal account. I didn't know that the money was coming from the proceeds of cannabis sales. That's what made it. And I thought I knew the person who was putting the money in my account. It was so many different people putting money in my account in a whole nother state that I had no idea about. And so, the feds, I would say the IRS and the DEA was involved in this case, and they had already pretty much have been investigating it for a couple of years. And I got a call at my place of employment, and had I known what I was doing was illegal, I probably would have closed my bank account. I don't know. You know what I mean? So they were able to look into my bank account and see I was getting pay stubs from my employer. And that is how they found me. And so they called my job. This IRS agent, I'll never forget him. He called my job and just started rambling off about all of these things. And I'm trying to piece it together. I'm like, am I in trouble? Like, what is going on? Why is the IRS calling me? And he's like, well, you might be. And these people target people like you. And we need you to come down and meet with us and be on a recorded line with the federal district attorney. And I'm just like, my head is spinning because I'm like, well, I don't, at this point, this is almost 2 years later. I don't have a cell phone. I don't even talk to the person that I knew anymore. I've gotten married. Like, life has happened, and I don't.
You had even stopped receiving the deposits. They contacted you 2 years after.
Yes.
Really?
I was only in California for about 2.5 weeks out of that whole 2 years that they were doing the investigation. I didn't know. So as he began talking and saying, oh, in California, and there was money put in your account. So it starts making sense. Now I'm like, wait, what?
Yeah.
But I'm already scared. What if I say something wrong? What if I, you know what I mean? I know that anything I say or do can be used against me in a court of law. Yeah. And so originally I had agreed to meet with them, and I thought they were just kind of fishing, because I said, if it was this serious, why wouldn't they come and
get you,
get me? Exactly. I didn't understand. So I had, talked with my partner, and I was like, I don't feel comfortable going without an attorney. It was like a Friday, and they wanted me to come on a Monday. There was not enough time for me to get legal counsel or anything like that. And so I was like, you know what? If it's that serious, they'll come and get me, which I think they did. But they called me
that Monday, or it took some time?
No, it took about a month.
So you didn't show up on Monday?
No, they didn't. I talked to them on Monday, though.
Okay.
And I could hear them recording me.
Oh, wow.
And they kept saying there's been deposits made in your bank account from Florida, and I'm like, I was like, I have a cousin in Florida, who's given me money before. I don't have the bank statements. I don't know at this time that money is coming from Florida. It makes no sense to me what we're talking about. But it's making sense as I'm like, okay, I know it's this trip I went to California, right? And so I told him, I said, it seems like you guys have what you want. I don't have any emails. I don't have any text messages. I don't even have the same number or phone anymore. So y'all just need to leave me alone and let me live my life, because obviously I can't help you, And so he told me before we got off the phone, you will see us again. And I was like, what does that mean? And he said, you will see us again.
Wow.
So about a month later, they came to my job and arrested me, like pulled up on me, like hopped out with the jackets and it was like the SWAT team, but not the SWAT team. And it wasn't even the original people working the case. I'm in Texas, so they sent some IRS agents from Louisiana.
Mm-hmm.
Because at the time I was residing in Louisiana. They sent them from New Orleans, and they didn't even, I'm asking, what am I being charged with? What am I being charged with? They didn't even know. They had to go pull the paper up to tell me what I was being charged with. And so they basically kidnapped me, took me to the courthouse. The judge there in that parish was upset. She's like, you brought this woman before me. She's been living in this state. She hasn't even had a ticket. She has a job. And you have nothing to tell me. Like, what are you, what are we doing? She told me, I don't know what to tell you, ma'am, about this, but all I'm going to tell you is I'm going to release you on your own recognizance. You have this bond. If you don't show up to court, you need to go to California in 2 weeks, and they will take it from there.
Okay.
So that's what initiated the indictment. And at that time, it wasn't even an indictment; it was a complaint. It initiated that, and that's where my journey in the federal system, which is a whole different level. That you're up, it's a whole different beast, a whole different demon.
So you showed up in California, appeared before the court. Did you have an attorney at that time, or was a public defender granted to you? How did you prepare for that moment? Because I'm sure you would want as much in your arsenal as possible to use in case they try to keep you. So how was that experience? What did you do then when you ended up in California?
Well, they gave me a probation officer in Louisiana, and so I had been in talks with that probation officer, and he had let me know that they're probably not going to keep you. It's just an appearance to set a hearing date. So I kind of had that in my mind, like, okay, well, they're not going to keep me. I just need to go and figure out what's next.
Right.
So I flew to California, and I was on my way to the courthouse and got a call from the first public defender that was on my case. And I thought that, he seemed like he was for me, but I learned later that he definitely was not. And so when I got there, she just read the count I was facing, only one count at the time. Wow. The max, I think, was up to 5 years for that one count. And then, she said, you have a job, you have all of these things. So I'm going to let you go back. Okay. It's okay. I'm going to let you go back home, and, your attorney will let you know when you need to report for trial or for whatever. I had to say, I'm not guilty,
Right. And and they were basing this charge just on the bank deposits?
Yes.
Was it? So it didn't prove that you were any, part of any other of the transactions. It was just the deposits that which is a federal crime. Okay. Yeah. All right. So when did you actually get incarcerated? Because again, it sounds like you were free. You just had this obviously looming over your head, but you were free. And at the interest of time, because I want to get to your movie, I want to get to everything that you have going on. What transpired then after, and how was your experience in jail?
So It was about over a year and a half a time span. They kept trying to get me to take a plea deal, and I refused. You know, I saw what happened to my mother. I received the plea deal. I received all of the evidence against me. I mean, they sent me so much discovery, is what it's called, that they even had to call me back and say, "Oh, we sent you too much. You need to send it back." Yes, but this attorney, this public defender, would call me over this time. "Oh, you need to take the plea deal. Everybody's taking the plea deal. You're going to look at way more time. They're going to charge you with drug charges," all of these things. And I was like, listen, I know I didn't touch any of that. If they want to try to go ahead and charge me with that, let them, because I know for a fact I didn't do that.
Yeah.
And so over all of this time, I about 3 weeks before my trial was supposed to start, they superseded the indictment and charged me with 13 counts. So I was looking at over 100 years if I was sentenced to the max on each count. They were mad that I was going to trial to fight for freedom. And so that is something that they do. You know, you look at it and you're like, I can fight this one count. Like, I got this, you know, but now I'm looking at 13 counts. And at the time I had moved to Atlanta, I was working on a lot of different shows and television as like a production assistant, sometimes as a background actor, just to get my foot in the door. I remember I was working on the first season of Atlanta when my public defender, which I had gotten a new one, God is real, and the other one just fell off mysteriously, and I got a Black man public defender. And although I still didn't trust him, I felt like he really had at least my best interest, because when I declined the plea, he said, "I don't blame you. I wouldn't either. I wouldn't sign it either." And so it was a 3-day trial. I lost. There was so many lies that were told about me. They demeaned my character, everything about me. It was one of the hardest things I've had to go through in my life, to just sit there and listen to these people say these things. Even the main witness that was like the main, I guess, snitch to tell the whole conspiracy, I'd never seen him before. And the DA asked, "Have you ever seen the defendant?" And I really thought he was going to lie, because he'd been lying about everything else. And he said, "No, I don't." He looked at me and he said, "No, I don't. I've never met her, but I heard from this person who heard from this person about a Black girl named Ashley." And Ashley is my first name. Starling is my middle name. Never described me, never said anything about what I look like. Then said that I drove from Atlanta, drove pounds of weed from Atlanta to or from
adding more to the story.
But no evidence. There was no rental car receipts. There was no hotel receipts. There was none of this. They literally made me out to be like this big weed dealer. And I was like, well, I'm missing some money, because at least if I would have done all of this, I have something to show for it.
I'm glad you can make light of that, because that is so great. You are so right about that. Like, if this is true, why I'm not decked out? You know what I'm saying? Why am I not living the life?
And there was like millions of dollars in the plea deal. It was millions of dollars that were not mine, bank accounts that were not mine, pounds and pounds of weed that wasn't mine, Mercedes, mansions.
Oh my God.
I mean, none of this stuff was mine.
Why do you think that they were trying so hard to force this case on you and get you to take a plea when clearly there was no true evidence to prove that you did any of these things? Yes, I did. I allowed them to use my bank account. I am letting you know that I did that. There's nothing else that I'm hiding. Why is it, do you believe, especially now going through the process and seeing and learning and hearing the stories that you've heard from other women, what do you think is the reason why they wanted that story to stick on you in particular?
A conviction rate. So the feds don't like to lose. They have a 98% conviction rate. It's about numbers to them. You're not a human to them. Even my attorney let me know that in that particular district in California, that this prosecutor specifically targeted women of color who had no means to fight them. And so when you say, if you go to trial, you're looking at over 100 years, a lot of people will fold. You know, that's
not let me get out, let it stick on my record. I'm just going to fly the straight and narrow right now and just pray that this never comes up again. How did you end up getting out? What was the catalyst to that?
My public defender, shout out to Jerome, he stayed on my case, which is a very, very rare situation. He just he saw what they were doing and he was like, no, I'm going to help you fight. And so while we lost at trial, he immediately, they snatched me immediately from my life. So I didn't get a chance to turn myself in. They took me and I was immediately incarcerated. And so right after that, he filed an appeal, and it took 2 years before he was able to go before the judges and present all of my appeal, documentation and all of the things. And we won. Like, God's grace, God.
Wow.
I can't say that we did it on our own. It was God the whole time, and he had a lot of appeal experience. I would say he was a great appeal attorney. It's different. People don't understand trial and appeal look a little different. And so, yeah, I had to do 2 years, and I learned a lot, but I feel like God allowed me to go through this because he knew that, especially from what happened to my mother, I was not going to be quiet. I was going to use the gifts of writing and filmmaking. And to be honest, during that time, I said, they can take my physical temporarily. I always say this, they have my body physically temporarily, but they can never cage my mind. And so that time, I just wrote. I said, hey, this is the first time I don't have to worry about rent. I don't have to worry about lights. I don't have to worry about food. I don't even have to worry about what I got to wear every day, because that's already told to me what I have to do. So let me utilize this time. I can get my 10,000 hours within this time when I have nothing else to going
hold you back.
Focus on my craft. And so I came out. You'll see in the film. I don't know if you remember when I'm coming out of prison. I have all those boxes. That's scripts. That's books. That's all of the things that I was working on, and even other women's stories. And knowing that once I got out, regardless if I had won my appeal or not, I was going to tell. But God he gets all the glory, And so it's a very rare thing to actually beat the feds. And I did. And all of the charges were overturned. And the court even had to pay me my court fees back. And I
love it. And everyone else that was part of this ring, or everyone else actually had to do time. They pled guilty.
Everyone else but me pled guilty. There was no other Black person on my case except for me. And the main guy who they used to build this whole case, they ended up finding out he was lying. He did no time, got out, had a baby, was on probation, still selling weed. And his probation officer found out about it, and the prosecutor had to call my attorney and let him know, like, this is what's going on. He ended up getting another sentence. I think he almost got 10 years because he was still selling pounds of weed while on probation. So everybody got what they deserved, I should say.
Exactly. Thank you. Now I'm going to ask you this question. Are you still friends with the young lady that told you that, do you want to make some money?
No,
it's illegal.
No, I couldn't hate her. God really used the situation to elevate my life. He'll take some of the darkest things you ever go through and turn it around. And it's for his glory to talk about what he has done and what he's brought you through. And so the main reason I didn't just go, what they say, snitch and tell on her back then, which I didn't really know what to tell, but to tell on, she had kids. And I said, if she goes to prison, I'll fix it, baby. Thank you. If she goes to prison, who's going to take care of her children? You know what I mean? And so like I said, it's just all of God's glory.
Well, you are so right about that. And I am so glad that you're giving God all the glory and the honor, because he truly, truly deserves it. You sound like you went through a lot in 2 to 3 years, and yet to still come out on the other side and be as impactful as you are to other women who are going through the same. And actually, even before that, I mean, you had to experience your mom, going through the system, unfortunately. And from what I heard, your dad as well. So not only what it looks like from the outside, what it looks like on the inside. Yeah. So it is a blessing that you came out, that you didn't let it define who you are and how the world is going to perceive you moving forward. You've truly, from what I see, created a foundation that will help so many others out there regain their voice and their truth. So that's what I want to speak about. You said you were writing while you were in jail. It gave you the time to dig deep into who you are and what ultimately you wanted to become. So I understand you created, what is it, Soldier Media? What exactly is that, real quick? And then I want to get right into the movie.
Yeah, so it's a multimedia production company. I just launched this year. I had my Starling Films, which was, a smaller just film company, but I decided that I do more than just film. Film is obviously a tool, and it's my soul work, but I do a lot of other things like branding and communications consulting and all of those things. And so that's why I founded Soldier, to put the power back in our hands as storytellers and tell stories our way. And my vision is that ultimately I will be able to hire justice impacted people. I will be able to give training and programs to justice impacted people to teach them how to tell their story, whether it's through a podcast or a camera or a book. All of these, storytelling is a tool, and it is literally the way that we will change people's minds and change their hearts through our stories. And a lot of people just need a platform. They just never have had the opportunity to tell their story. And so that's why I created Soldier.
I love that. Helping those that everyone has a story to tell. We all do, honestly. We've been through some things, some challenges, some tribulations, some problems in our lives that other people need to hear so they can glean something from. You know what I mean? So I love the fact that your focus is on helping those who have been justice impacted, and also give them a path that they can lay for their future. You know what I mean? A path that they can walk for their future, not realizing the gifts that they have inside of them by telling their story. So I think that is awesome. So Black Butterflies, because I know that you've, developed other movies, films, and, media things, but in terms of the movie Black Butterfly, how did that come about? And tell us real quick a little about it before we show the clip.
Absolutely. Yes. So originally Black Butterflies was a project I started when I was fighting my case, and I wanted to expose what the system was doing. And so I started documenting, this was in a time where there wasn't all these prison shows and Prison Bay and all of the things that they put on TV now. And so I just wanted to tell my story. Like, look at what they are doing to me. I was a filmmaker. And so my first notion was to just pick up a camera and start documenting. And I thought that I'd have the opportunity to kind of count down my life as I get ready to turn myself in if I lost my case. Right. And so that didn't happen because I was snatched from my life. And so I didn't have the opportunity to document that. I just became incarcerated, and that's what it was. I just didn't get out. And once I got into the federal system, I realized I am far from alone. I am not the only one that they are doing this to. This is something that they are doing all across the country to women of color every single day. And so, I got close with a lot of the women. I taught classes while I was in prison. And so, once I got out, I started working on the project, just developing it, trying to figure out what it will look like now. And that's when I decided to reach out to the other 3 women who also were wrongfully incarcerated. One actually got out and became a public defender, and then was the first Black woman to run for Congress in her district in Tennessee. Another woman, she was 19. Her father had a healthcare business, and he put businesses in her name, and she ended up doing almost 11 years for that because of her father's business. And then Tyneese Hall, she was incarcerated at 23 years old because her boyfriend was selling drugs. She never touched any of the drugs. They were never in her house. The house was just in her name. She was 23 years old. They sentenced her to 45 years. She ended up doing 14 before they had a Free Chinese movement before Kim Kardashian got involved and helped her get clemency from Trump in 2020.
I love it.
And so we have some really, we are just 4 stories, right? There's thousands of stories.
That no one wants to listen to because the justice system, as you said, just wants to fill their quota. They don't want to lose. And they want to make sure that they impact, infect, and to me, just damage as many Black families as they possibly can. And especially the pillar of the family, which is the Black woman. That is truly sad. Well, I want to share with the audience a clip of your movie, Black Butterflies.
Okay.
Graduated with my degree in criminal justice and psychology, and 2 weeks later, I had to go to federal prison. They found me guilty of aiding and abetting a conspiracy to distribute 100 to 400 kilograms of marijuana.
Cars that were not mine. Millions of dollars that were not mine. Houses that were not mine. Guns that were not mine. I was looking at over 100 years if I was sentenced to the max. They were trying to sentence me to life.
How do you maneuver? How do you continue on, life with $8.6 million debt?
It's not fair. Your skin can dictate what you go through. Try not to let it happen to you.
The feds have a 98% conviction rate for a reason. They do not like to lose. They will do whatever and however and whomever they have to in order to get that conviction.
There's a criminality that's attached to all of us simply because of the color of our skin.
A white man is going through the exact same thing that we were, yet he got no jail time.
I see my mom push the door open. She turns her head back, and all I see is the cop literally yoke her up and body slam her on the ground. His whole body weight on top of my mom, just wailing on her head. And he has the handcuffs in his hand. The public defender that she had told her to just sign the deal, because if you go to trial, you're looking at 10 years away from your kids. If you're gonna sentence me to jail, if you're gonna take me to trial and accuse me of these things, we're gonna fight, because I saw what y'all did to my mom.
When you're young, you think everything is fun and you're partying, you're spending money, you're buying shoes, you're buying bags, you're living in a house, new cars. But the consequences of being an adult boy's life ain't that fun at the end. Because the same consequences that he gets, you gonna get, and you could get more. I don't think my story is unique in the criminal justice system. Thousands of women that have the same story.
Pulling the curtain back on this criminal legal system and really giving people a firsthand account of what this is. There's also that penalty that you get for choosing to exercise your constitutional right to hold the government to its burden.
You feel like it's a game that's being played between them. This is my right to fight for myself. They're gonna have some kind of justice, but it's not like that. It's not like that at all.
They use my education against me. They use my family history against me. They're expecting Black people to come from broken homes.
You want these people to kind of like, okay, get to know me. I'm not what you guys are accusing me of.
We are in this system that is designed, to break us.
Because it's not fair and it's not right, and there is no justice.
Black women are more resilient than anyone ever thought that we could be. And we are statistics, but we refuse to be casualties.
Wow. Oh my God, intimate, yet still emotionally raw, I will say, because you could tear up listening to the little bit of their stories as well as your own. Tell me, how do you hope this film will impact others, especially those incarcerated women out there? What are you hoping this film does for those women that have been?
I'm hoping that it gives them hope to know that this is not the end it is just the beginning, and that God is going to give you glory, or give glory. God, I can't even talk. I'm getting emotional. God is going to make sure his glory is given whenever this comes to the end. I think for me, the biggest thing was I thought my life was over when I went to prison. I could not see past it. I didn't know what life was going to look like on the other side. I was very, very depressed and lost to understand how could God allow this to happen to me. And so I think, one of the women in the film, reading about her story, my attorney sent me her story while I was incarcerated and said, hey, I think you should know about this woman. You guys have similar cases, and she's now a public defender. And when I saw that, I said, oh my gosh, like, you can come out of prison and be a public defender and working with the same people who put you where you are. That is powerful. And so from that moment, I was like, no, I'm going to turn this around. I'm going to educate my sisters, because one thing about it is I had no idea about how the system worked until I went through it. And so there's a lot of things that they do to manipulate women into convictions, into these plea deals. And so that's another part that I want to give, education to women. And I want to expose this system. There's a lot of things that I think the general public just doesn't understand about, especially on a federal level. State and feds are a little different. On a federal level, what they do to get these convictions. It's not right. It's not real, true justice. It's not, we're serving our community and removing this hard criminal from off. That is not the case. And so that's another part. I want to change legislation. I don't want the feds to be able to use conspiracy laws in the way that they do to entrap people, entrap women.
Yeah, I love that. And that is a worthy mission, my friend. It truly is. And from your experiences and living the life that you are now, I know that you're happy, you have a beautiful family. What are you telling your children about your experience? What is that story like?
Oh gosh, it hasn't happened yet. It's funny because I just was talking to my dad the other day. My daughter is 5. My son is just 1.5, so he's still small. But my daughter is 5, and I still haven't had that conversation with her, because I think she's at an age where if she learned about that, it would scare her. And this is intergenerational for me. My mother was incarcerated. I was incarcerated. This has to stop. I don't want this to continue to the next generation of my family. And so I haven't had that conversation yet, but when she does get a little bit older to understand, I will have that conversation with her. And I think the most thing that I want from her to take from it is that my mama didn't give up. She's still fought, and she's still strong. And all of the things that I've seen her do to learn this now is like, wow, and I just wanted to instill in her a fight. And, maybe she'll be one of, the young advocates. We'll see.
That's right.
But I know she'll be creative. She's already picked up the camera and records herself. She does it all.
I know she is. Look at her mama. So I totally get it. You let her know she is not let the world define her story. She will be able to create that and define that. So I love that. I truly do. Well, we're winding down in time. I want to ask you, what are your dreams for Soulture and for your journey and the future of justice storytelling?
For my dream for Soulture is just to be able to put the power back in justice impacted people's hands. One thing, and this is my son Jair, he doesn't care that. I want us to tell our stories. I am so tired of these production companies and streaming services and all of these folks that benefit financially millions and millions of dollars off of our stories. I'm tired of it. A lot of times we don't get the opportunity to tell our stories in our way. So many times it's other people. And so that is what Soulture is. Now, obviously I want to be able to tell authentically our stories, and that's where the work comes in. But the real impact is being able to train up an army of justice impacted people who know what the power of storytelling is and how to tell our stories and get paid, because it's money.
Get paid and educate ourselves on the system as well and how it works. You know what I mean? And don't just become a product of the system, which happens. And like you said, they were looking for you not knowing where to go, who to lean on, who to get support from. Even if you knew what was actually up against you, they were looking for you not to have those resources in order for them to get away with the injustice that they were trying to get away with. So it is a blessing that you did not give up. And it is a blessing that you are on a mission right now to teach others as well not to do the same, not to fall, not to, you know, to allow themselves to be heard, and to, more importantly, stand up for their rights, which is so important. So I'm so glad that you told your story. I want to ask you also, what would you like to share with the You're Our Unity audience, especially those women who may be going through some challenges? Again, you're a powerful woman, my friend, so it's all about empowering our women.
Yes, absolutely. I mean, if they would like resources, I work for an organization called the Ladies of Hope Ministries, the LOHM.org. They're actually based out of New York, but we have programming across the country. So they can always send me an email, Starling at the LOHM.org, and I can connect them. We have housing, we have job programs, we have a lot of different things, and we focus specifically on justice impacted women. And then also with the film, if you want to get involved, you can go to.
Let's put up her information real quick. We're going to share that very thing. If they want to get involved in the film, they can go to your website and all of that information is there, correct?
Yes, it is. And also you can go to, that's my personal website, or you can go to blackbutterfliesdoc.com. That's going to take you directly to everything we're doing with this film.
Okay, let's get that website address again. Black Butterflies
Doc. So blackbutterfliesdoc.com.
Excellent, excellent. Thank you so much, Starling, for being here. You have an amazing story, my friend. And trust me, we cut it up, sliced it, pied it. We did all of that when there was so much more to tell. But again, if you want to hear her story, please help her so that she can make sure the film is being seen, is being broadcast, and everyone can get involved. So I'd like to thank you so much for your time, and your son as well. Thank you for showing up in the last few minutes, my friend. So I just want to get real quick to the Dare to Be You. And it is. Dare to stand in your truth, even when the world tries to write your story for you. You are not what happened to you. You are not what you choose to become. Dare to break the mold, to speak even when your voice shakes, to exist boldly in a world that profits from your invisibility. Your voice is power, your presence is purpose, and your story is sacred. Dare to reclaim your narrative and rise from the ashes with grace and grit. Triumph is always loud. Isn't always loud. It's the quiet choice to keep becoming. Dare to be you unapologetically, radically, and without permission. And that is exactly what this amazing woman has done. She fought for her freedom. She refused to allow the system to dictate who she is, what she's done, and who she will become. It is a blessing that you stood your ground, my friend. It really, really is, because now it affords us the opportunity to be able to see all of the creativity you have within yourself and the fact that you want to share it with others. So thank you so much again, Starling, for being here. I so appreciate you. And thank you too. What is your son's name?
Jair.
Oh, thank you so
Going
much,
through the
Diane.
terrible twos. Thank you.
Thank you, cutie. I'd like to thank you all for tuning in for another wonderful episode of Your Our Unity. Please remember that peace and love is in the palm of our hands. So let's go out there and be some love, share some love, and just walk in love. We will see you in 2 weeks. You have a fabulous evening. And thanks again to Miss Starling Thomas. And please follow her, ladies and gentlemen. She is a force to be reckoned with. You have a wonderful night. I'll talk to you soon. Thank
Bye.
you.